Welcome back to the Alex Carter podcast. Today, we're diving deep into a pretty pressing question, I think, for anyone considering launching a product right now. With all this talk about tariffs, rising costs, is it still actually a good idea?
It's a huge question. And we've got some really solid insights here from Helium 10. They work with just tons of e-commerce businesses, so they're right in the thick of it.
Yeah, they published an article looking squarely at this, and we want to pull out the sort of the crucial bits you need if you're making decisions.
Exactly. Our mission today really is to cut through that noise. We want to figure out the smart moves that you need to make if you're planning a launch in this, well, let's call it tricky environment.
Right. What are the unexpected challenges? But also, maybe more importantly,
What are the opportunities? Because sometimes challenges do create openings.
yeah, absolutely. So think of this as like your strategy briefing for navigating the current e-commerce landscape.
Good way to put it.
Okay, so let's dig in. The first big point from Helium 10 seems to be that, look, higher startup costs, they're not just a phase. They're kind of the new normal.
That's the reality, yeah. And tariffs are a huge driver behind that.
Okay, so tariffs driving up landed costs. Let's just quickly define landed cost for anyone who isn't, living and breathing this stuff. What's the key thing to grasp?
The key thing is that landed cost is the total cost.
Yeah.
It's everything involved in getting that product from the factory door, essentially, to being ready to sell.
Not just the manufacturing price tag.
No, not at all. It's the manufacturing, yes, but also the freight, the shipping, any insurance, the customs duties. That's where tariffs fit in, and even warehousing costs. It's the all-in number.
Got it. And the Helium 10 piece really stresses that you can't just figure out tariffs later.
Oh, definitely not. You absolutely have to bake those costs into your calculations right from the very beginning. Day one stuff.
Otherwise, your profit picture is just completely off, right?
Exactly. You get a nasty surprise. They actually mention a practical tool for this Helium 10's profitability calculator.
Oh, yeah. Is that part of their main suite?
It's actually available on their free Chrome extension, which is pretty handy. And it helps you factor in all those different pieces. FBA fees, your actual cost of goods, likely PPC ad spend, those tariffs, referral fees.
So it gives you a much more realistic view of whether a product idea actually has legs in this environment?
Precisely. It helps answer that fundamental question. Can this thing actually make money?
Okay, so let's say you run the numbers, maybe using that calculator, and the product you were excited about looks maybe less profitable than you hoped with these higher costs. Is that just a dead end?
Not necessarily, no. And this is an interesting point they make. Your competitors, they're probably facing the exact same pressures.
Right. Everyone's costs are likely going up.
Yeah. So one thing you should do is keep a really close eye on what they're doing with pricing. That same Helium 10 Chrome extension, apparently, has a price history graph.
Okay, so you can see if they're starting to nudge their prices up.
Exactly. If you see competitors slowly increasing prices, it might mean they're also trying to absorb these costs and maintain margins. That could give you a bit more breathing room with your own pricing.
That makes sense. It's not happening in a vacuum. Okay, what about negotiation? The article mentions that, but maybe not just haggling over the unit price.
Right. Pushing for a lower per unit cost is, always worth trying, especially now. But there's a huge caveat.
Quality.
Quality, absolutely. The article warns strongly, do not let quality slip just to save a few cents per unit. Get samples. Get it in writing that quality standards will be maintained. Because bad quality will kill your business faster than tariffs will.
Yeah, bad reviews, returns, nightmare fuel.
Okay, so if you're careful about quality, what else can you negotiate besides that unit price?
This is where it gets quite strategic, I think. Payment terms.
Okay. Not just what you pay, but when you pay. Exactly. Often, especially for new sellers, suppliers want a big chunk up front, maybe even 100% before shipping. But as you build trust, you might be able to negotiate better terms, like paying maybe 30, 60, or even 90 days after the goods actually land.
Wow, 90 days post-landing. That would make a huge difference to cash flow.
Huge difference. It means you could potentially start selling and generating revenue before that big payment is due.
Might be tough on the first order, maybe.
Probably tough on order one, yeah. But it's definitely something to aim for as that relationship strengthens. It frees up so much working capital.
That's a really valuable insight. Okay, another strategy mentioned was using free trade zones, FTZs, or bonded warehouses. Sounds a bit technical. How does that help with tariffs?
Think of it like hitting a pause button on the import duties. When your goods arrive, instead of paying the tariffs immediately, you ship them to one of these special zones.
Okay.
They're stored there. And you only pay the tariffs when you actually move the goods out of the zone, say, to send them to Amazon's fulfillment centers.
Ah, so you defer the payment. You don't have to pay that big tariff bill all at once when the container lands.
Exactly. It helps your cash flow massively because you're not tying up all that capital immediately in duties. You can even do things like repackaging or relabeling while the goods are sitting in the FTZ.
Is there any other potential upside?
There is, actually. Let's say tariff rates happen to drop while your goods are chilling in the FTZ.
Oh, you might pay the lower rate when you finally pull them out.
Potentially, yes. It has a layer of flexibility. And many of these FTD warehouses also act like 3PL's third-party logistics providers. They can handle the storage, prep the goods for Amazon, manage the shipments out. It can streamline things, especially if production's already underway.
That sounds like a pretty sophisticated but powerful tool if you can make it work. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Crowdfunding. I usually think of that for like brand new gadgets. How does it fit into dealing with tariffs for maybe a more standard product?
It's interesting how platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo are used now. They're not just for wild inventions. They can be a really smart way to, first, test the actual demand for your product.
Okay, validation.
Yes, validation. And second, to pre-sell it at a price that already includes those higher tariff-related costs.
Ah, so you build the tariff impact into your crowdfunding price from the get-go.
Exactly. You raise capital up front,
Yeah.
validate demand, and you price appropriately for the current cost reality. Plus, you build an initial customer base.
But the article had a pretty strong warning about just throwing up a campaign, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely critical point. You can't just launch and pray. You need an audience before you launch the campaign.
Right. Build the list first.
Build the email list first. That's the key takeaway. They suggest offering something genuinely valuable for free, like a downloadable guide, maybe a checklist, tips related to your niche.
Like if you're selling, I don't know, camping gear, maybe top 5 essentials for first-time campers.
Perfect example. Or for performance socks, how to crush long work days without killing your feet. Something your target audience actually wants.
And you offer that in exchange for their email address. How do you set that up easily?
You'd use a simple landing page builder tools like MailChimp, ConvertKit, maybe even a basic Shopify page setup. You promote that free resource for weeks, maybe months, before the crowdfunding campaign.
So when you launch the campaign, you're launching it to people who are already interested in someone engaged.
Exactly. A warm audience, they're way more likely to back you. And bonus, running a campaign like that really forces you to nail your branding and marketing message early on.
Makes sense. That pre-work is vital. Okay, so building on that, the article also talks about using that time while your product is actually being manufactured, the downtime. Don't just sit around, right?
Definitely not. That's prime time to get ahead. First, product development details. They suggest using tools like Helium-10 Audiences, which uses PickFu for feedback.
Right, getting real customer opinions on designs, colors, packaging, logos.
Yes. Get that feedback from your target demographic before you commit to a huge production run. It can save you from making really expensive mistakes based on guesswork.
Smart. Avoid launching something people don't actually like the look of. What else?
Listing optimization. This is huge. Use tools like Helium-10 Cerebro to research the heck out of your competitor keywords. Find out exactly what terms customers are searching for.
Both the obvious ones and the maybe less obvious long-tail keywords.
All of them. Then use something like Helium-10's Listing Builder to actually craft your Amazon listing or wherever you're selling. You need it optimized both for the platform's search algorithm and to actually persuade a human customer to buy. It's a balancing act.
Absolutely. A great listing makes a massive difference. And what about building that brand connection we talked about?
Keep doing it. Continue building that email list with valuable free content. Nurture those leads.
Yeah.
And use social media, but not just blasting ads. Tell your story. Show behind-the-scenes progress. Connect like a human.
Build trust and anticipation.
Exactly. And they even suggest thinking longer term during this phase. Use Helium-10's black box tool, maybe, to research complementary products you could add down the line. Always be thinking ahead.
So really using that production window super strategically. Okay, now, a slightly worrying point raised is that with costs going up due to tariffs, some factories might be tempted to cut corners. How do you protect yourself?
Yeah, that's a real risk. The absolute key here is communication. Over-communicate.
Be crystal clear.
Crystal clear. Send incredibly detailed written product specifications. Leave no room for ambiguity. Don't rely on verbal chats. Schedule third-party quality inspections during production. Create your own detailed quality checklist that the inspectors use.
And if early samples aren't right?
Address it immediately. Don't be shy. Be firm but professional. Document absolutely everything. Every email, every spec sheet, every photo of a defect, every agreed solution. This is your projection.
Meticulous record keeping is key there. Okay, so tariffs are clearly a challenge, but the article floats an interesting idea. They might actually create an opportunity by acting as a barrier to entry.
It's a counterintuitive thought, but yeah. These higher costs and complexities, they can deter the less serious, maybe get-rich-quick type sellers.
The ones who aren't really committed.
Exactly. So if you are serious, if you do the planning, you build the brand foundation, you focus on quality and customer value, you might find the competitive landscape is actually a bit less crowded.
Because the barrier filtered some people out.
Potentially, yes. Those who are strategic and well-capitalized, because you do need enough cash flow to handle these costs and potential delays, they're the ones who can stand out.
That's an encouraging perspective. Having that long-term view helps. Now, another big advantage for new sellers, the article points out, is choice of manufacturing location.
Huge advantage. Established sellers might be locked into relationships in, say, China. But if you're starting now, you've got a blank slate.
And with tariffs hitting certain regions hard,
It's the perfect time to explore alternatives. The article mentions looking at places like Vietnam, Mexico, India, even parts of Eastern Europe. These places might offer competitive pricing and, crucially, fewer or no Section 301 tariffs, depending on the product and origin.
what about manufacturing closer to home, like in the U.S.?
Definitely worth considering, too. For certain products, maybe lighter weight, higher margin, premium items manufacturing domestically eliminates import tariffs entirely and simplifies logistics.
Oh, new sellers really have flexibility to shop around strategically for sourcing.
They absolutely do. It's a major strategic decision point right at the start.
Okay, so pulling this all together for someone listening who's on the fence about launching right now, any final quick tips or strategies from the Helium-10 insights?
Yeah, a few key takeaways. 1, negotiate harder with suppliers, not just on price, but terms, too. 2, consolidate shipments whenever possible to save on freight. 3, seriously, look into those bonded warehouses or FTZs to delay duties if it fits your model. 4, launch lean. Start with your core product. Don't try to launch 10 things at once. Focus, yeah. And finally, maybe prioritize profit over perfection initially. Get launched, get revenue coming in, then refine.
Good, practical advice. So the big question remains, is launching now feasible? What's the overall verdict?
The verdict seems to be, yes, absolutely feasible, but it's a big but it requires more planning, more strategy, more adaptability than maybe it did a few years ago.
It's not impossible, just harder, or requiring more diligence.
More diligence is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
The sellers who are proactive, who use the available data and tools, who build a real brand, they're the ones who can definitely succeed, even with these headwinds.
So while launching a product with tariffs looming definitely presents, real challenges, our deep dive into these Helium-10 insights suggests it's really far from impossible.
Not at all. With the right approach, careful cost management, smart negotiation, maybe looking at different manufacturing spots, using tools for validation, you can navigate it.
And potentially even find those opportunities to stand out because some others might be scared off.
That's the potential upside, yes.
Yeah.
Success really hinges on being strategic, being adaptable, and being prepared. Understanding the costs, using the resources, building that brand foundation early.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you some clarity and maybe some actionable steps if you're considering your own product launch.
Yeah, hopefully some practical things to think about.
We'd love to hear your thoughts, of course, or any other questions this brings up. Feel free to connect. You can find more info and resources on our website. Thanks so much for joining us on the Alex Carter Podcast.